monetary economics. Yeah? All right, I'll show you my screen. Share screen. Okay, Dr. Dimas, how can I show my screen?
Okay, doctors. Before we start, can I get some? Can I have 1-2 minutes to introduce our discussion today? How the discussion will run, doctors?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good evening, dear sisters and brothers. We are happy to have all of you here in the series of guest series lectures. That these lectures are basically the collaboration between Department of Economics from University of Malaya, Malaysia, and also Department of Economics, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. And as you see in the screen, dear sisters and brothers, this forum will be conducted blended. So we have some students also here who are sitting in the classroom, and also some of you are joining from everywhere, across countries, either Malaysia or Indonesia. And for the discussions, we have two speakers right now. Inshallah, Dr. Zarinah from Department of Economics, University of Malaya, and also myself here will be the consecutive speaker once Dr. Zarinah finish. And then we wish that our respective speakers will be presented the slide for 30 minutes, doctors. Is this okay for each of us?
For how many minutes?
30 minutes is okay?
30 minutes.
30.
Okay. All right.
So the rest will be you 30 minutes and ourselves here 30 minutes. And after that will be followed by the Q&A sessions, I guess.
30 minutes, okay. Sure.
Okay, with that, I would like to let you, Dr. Zarinah, to start your presentations on the inflation and money demands. So dear student, you are free to interact or maybe question her once they have or she has already finished the presentation, or perhaps in the end of the presentations when I have already conducted my presentation as well. With that, Dr. Zarinah, time is yours, please.
Okay, thank you. So I can, how to share my screen now? So I go to share screen.
Yeah, you can go to the share screen, the green line there, doctor.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you been assigned as the co-host?
Okay. All right. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, perfect.
All right. So I should go, one moment. Let me. Right. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, today our topic will be quantity theory, inflations and the demand for money. Okay, so the objective of this presentation is to examine, to discuss and examine the quantity theory of money and its link to the demand for money, and then to identify the link between interest rate and the demand for money, and also to assess the relationship between inflation and money growth. All right. So let's see this quantity theory of money. This quantity theory of money explain how the nominal value of aggregate income is determined, and also this quantity theory also from this quantity theory of money we can know how much money people hold to spend in the economy, and it is also at the same time the theory of demand for money. And in this quantity theory, what we can see here, there is no role for interest rate. No role for interest rate. Let's see why. I explain later in the next slide. Okay, this is the quantity theory of money. All right, quantity theory of money, where it is given as MV equal to PY. Yeah, this is quantity theory of money, and this is also called equations of exchange. So M is the money stock or money supply, whereas P is the price level, Y is the real output. When P times Y, this is nominal income, and then here V is the velocity. So in this quantity theory of money, we have MV equal to PY. So when we rearrange this equation, we can write it on the left side, V, velocity, as nominal income or nominal spending divided by money stock, P times Y divided by M. Okay, and in this theory, this quantity theory of money is developed by classical economics. Yeah? So they have a few assumptions in this quantity theory of money, which one of the assumptions is they assume that velocity is constant or fixed. Yeah? V is fixed, and Y, income, output, also measure output, is also assumed as unchanged, because this is a full employment assumption. Yeah? Full employment. They already achieve potential output. So, okay, next I would like to, let's see. So here, what we can see here, so velocity is fixed in the short run, and velocity is determined by the institutional factor. And then we can see here changes in money. What we can see here, since V is fixed, Y is fixed, any changes in money will only change price. Yeah? So the changes in the proportional, proportional, meaning if we increase 10% money, prices also increase 10%. If money double, prices also double. All right. So if we look at this equation, which I already mentioned to you earlier, in the earlier slide 5, slide 6, where this quantity theory, MV equal to PY, is also theory of demand for money. All right. So what we can see here in this quantity theory, if we MVPY just now, if we divide both sides by V, we can have this equation. M equal to 1 over V times PY. So this V is actually 1 over V is actually can also write as, we can write as K, and then M is also, M in equilibrium, M here is money stock, money stock or money supply, but in equilibrium, money demand equal to money stock. So we can write M equal to MD, money demand. So here, this money demand, we can also write, we can replace here in the earlier equation, which is M equal to 1V, but then 1V we replace with K, MD equal to K times PY. So K here is constant, and it is it measure the proportion money that people hold with respect to nominal income. Yeah? The amount that people hold for making in the transaction. Yeah? So meaning here, what we can see in the money demand equation, money demand is only affected by nominal income. It's affected by price and real income. There is no role for interest rate. That's why in the quantity theory of money, there is no role for interest rate. We don't talk about interest rate. Why? Because money demand in classical explanation or in classical theory is only only used for transaction. The functions of money is only for transaction, facilitating transaction in the exchange of good. Because of that, there is no role of interest rate here. All right. The demand for money is not affected by interest rate. And then I already explained just now that this V is fixed. Although, okay, this is in the short run, it is fixed. It can change in the long run, but we are now talking about the things in the short run. All right. Okay. In relation to price level, quantity theory and price level, the same equation MV equal to PY. This is MV equal to PY. We can, when we rearrange, we just rearrange equation. This equation we can write a very powerful equation which explain price. Yeah, meaning this price is affected by money. Why? Because V is fixed, Y is fixed, so there is no way velocity and output to influence price. So it rests 100% on money stock. So any change in the money stock will change price. This is the classical explanation. So if we go further into this relationship, the link between quantity theory and inflation, we can also write in another way, which we express, because we know that inflation is changes in price. So whereas when we look at the earlier equation, this is only the price level. It's not, this is not inflation, it's just a price level. So next, to look at inflation, we need to look at the percentage change in the price. So that quantity theory, we can also write it as a percentage change in XY, which is a sum of percentage in X plus percentage change in Y, where we can write it in this equation, the first equation here. And then we rearrange this equation where we put it all of changes in price on the left, only changes in price, whereas the other variables all we move to the right. We can have the second equation. From this second equation, okay, we have to look at the assumption. It is assumed that V is constant, Y is constant. So there is when look at changes in V, changes in Y, there is no change. Yeah, there is no changes in V, there is no changes in Y, because this is constant. Because of that, we can just remove this, eliminate this variable. So it only gives us now changes in P equal to percentage change in P equal to percentage change in M. So this is the explanation how the quantity theory relates with inflation in the classical theory or in the classical model. So here, okay, so what we can see here, inflation is also, we can express as changes in M over minus percentage change in Y. All right, next. Okay, this is some evidence. We already we know the theory. We study the theory. This is the evidence. The evidence, how far the validity of this quantity theory with the real world experience. So here, if you look at the data here, this is computed over from 1870 to 2010s, but the comparison is within 10 years, a decade, 10 years. Whereas if you look at every comparison 10 years, like 1930s, 1920s, what we can see here, more or less, money growth and inflation rate, they almost the same. At lower money growth, interest rate is low. At higher interest rate, at higher money growth, interest rate is high. Let's look at 1910 and 1990s and 1990s and 1910s. What we can get here, these two period, what we can see here is okay, yeah, okay, high, okay, 1910s, high inflation, which is 6%, and also money growth is also high at 9%, almost almost close, the figures here. And this is also you can look more. This one, okay, where for example 2000s and 2010s, 10 years period, we can see here almost 2% increase in what, this is 2%, not 2%, this is 3% increase in inflation. And we can we have this is a bit higher, money growth 6%, but on average they have almost close rate, growth rate here. And also if we look at Russia, Turkey, Brazil, and also Indonesia, they have very high money growth rate, and at the same time, yeah, Dr. Dimas, they also have very high inflation. Is that true? Okay, you can see it, but this is computed data. All of this is in the miskin. Okay, so what we can see here, if okay, does the quantity theory explain differing long run inflation rate across country? Yes, yes, it certainly does. With lower money growth, lower inflation. With higher money growth, higher inflation. And then what we can see here, this quantity theory only provide good explanation for long run inflation only, but not short run. Why? Because if you look at short run analysis, here this is the earlier is long run, because when they computed the data, this is based on 10 years, longer period, 10 years, whereas for the more shorter period, this is short run. What we can see here, there is no positive relationship here. What we can see, for instance, like here, in the in the middle of 1960s, we have high money growth, but inflation is quite low here. And this is also similar in the middle and in the second half of 1980s and early 1990s. First half of early 1990s, we have a lower inflation rate, whereas the money growth is higher here. Were high at that period. All right. So this is a short run data. So there is no clear link. There is no clear link between inflation and money growth. But so what we can conclude just now, quantity theory is a good explanation for long run behavior of inflation. Okay, coming to what this let me, okay, one moment. Okay, this is budget deficits and inflation. Okay, I think maybe I skip this because I think we need to in this. I was given only half an hour. If I have more time, I can explain this. But I would like to go to this Keynesian theory of money demand. All right, which is we can make a comparison with classical quantity theory of money demand just now. What we can see here, in the Keynesian, Keynes developed this theory of money demands. Theory of money demand, not Keynesian developed theories of money demand. Keynes developed only theory of money demand. Why in Keynes original theory of money demand, it only in Keynes explanation we only have one equation, which is in that equation I don't have it here. Money demand is made up of these three motifs. That which is transaction motive, precautionary motive, speculative motive, which is introduced in one equation. And here, what we can see here, this money demand now, which is unlike a classical theory, this Keynes money demand theory is significantly affected by changes in interest rate. Changes in interest rate. Whereas in Keynes, in Keynes theory of money demand, which is also called Keynes liquidity preference theory, money demand is affecting speculative motive, whereas transaction motive and precautionary motives are more affected by income. Whereas speculative motive is affected by interest rate. Whereas in this, in Keynes' explanation, if interest rate is high, people hold less money. People demand less money because they use money to buy bonds at higher interest rate. This is how Keynes introduced the role of interest rate in money demand equation. But then in Keynesian theories of money demand, which is Keynesian economists, they extended Keynes' model. They explained that even transaction motive and precautionary motive also are not only affected by income, but this motive also affected by interest rate. This is because they explain that if holding too much money for transaction motive and precautionary, this involve high opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of interest forgone for not keeping the money in the bank, getting the interest income. This is how Keynesians money demand, modern money demand theories explain the role of interest rate, which is broader than the Keynes originally introduced. All right, next. Okay, and later Keynes also because when he explained money demand for transaction, he only look at income only. But then later, with the growing of this advancement in financial system, the use of payment technology, he recognized that with more advanced payment technology, people hold less money, meaning with more advancement technology, people use more cashless money. For example, like using credit card. Yeah. So with credit card, people hold less money. Yeah. So this will affect transaction motive for money. Next, precautionary motive already explained to you just now. Precautionary motive, you know that this is money that people demand money not for transaction but for to use payment for unexpected things, or when because there is uncertainty in making payments. So this money demand is for payment for unexpected events. All right. So speculative motive already explained. So this is how Keynes introduced his money demand equation. We have mg over p. Mg over p is real money balances, real. If you remove p, it becomes nominal demand for money. Mg over p, this is real, and this is real, which is a functions of interest rate negatively and income positively, referring to the three motifs just now that we already explained. Then this equation is we can rewrite this equation in the second as the second equation, where p over md equal to 1 over f functions of interest rate and real income. And then we multiply both sides, and then we replace mg with m. What we can get now, the last equation is py over m. This py over m is similar like in the classical equation, where this explain velocity. So here in this Keynes explanation, this velocity change, and it is affected greatly by interest rate in money demand equation, whereas this is not happen in classical. We don't have this in classical. We don't have. What we have is money demand is just m, but here money demand here is something which is inherently unstable. Whereas in classical economic, money demand is stable. Because of that, we can write money demand as m, which is equal to money supply. But here no. But here we write money. Money here is money supply. At the same time, this money supply is also money demand, and this money supply is this money demand is affected by interest rate. Okay, so next. All right. So here, when interest rate change, so velocity change. They change in the similar direction. What we call this as pro-cyclical. Interest rate increases, velocity increases. K, 1 over K. K decreases. All right. And velocity also change with expectations of future normal changes in the interest rate. Okay. All right. Okay. So again, demand for real money balances is positively related to income and negatively related to nominal interest rate, based on the three motifs that I already explained to you. This is a summary of table for the Keynes theory that we discussed just now. So interest rate, when interest rate interest rates increase, what we can see here, money demand falls. income increases, money demand increases. Payment technology increases, money demand decreases. Wealth increases, money demand increases. Wealth decreases, money demand increases. So this wealth increases reflect that people would like to what to have more things, yeah, so to buy more things because they are richer now. Riskiness of other asset increases, money demand increases, so money is safe asset, so riskiness of other asset meaning bond, which is very which is quite risky based on the economic economic situation. So people would like to hold bond, would like to hold money here to avoid the risky inflation risk. When inflation risk increases, money demand falls. People don't want to hold money because purchasing power is decreasing. People would like to hold more physical asset because during inflation, physical asset the value is increasing. Yeah, and then liquidity of other asset increases, so money demand reduces. Why? Because other asset can also be transformed into liquid, so this will create less demand for money. All right, let's move. Okay, so for this money demand equation for Keynes or Keynesians, what we can see here, based on the empirical evidence, precautionary demand for money is also negatively related to interest rate. Yeah, because people still can use the money for precautionary because this spending for precautionary is uncertain. Yeah, it's not immediate, uncertain. So we can use in the meantime, we can use the money deposit in the bank, so we can get interest income. Then when the payment comes, then we can just withdraw the money or liquid the money. All right. I think this is okay. So in Keynes' explanation, we can see here that velocity is not constant. So meaning aggregate demand is not fully determined by quantity of money. It is affected also by interest rate. Okay, so what we can see here, money demand. So in Keynes' explanation, money demand is less stable, whereas in the quantity theory of money demand, quantity theory of money demand is more stable. Because of that, because of instability of this money demand, so we cannot use money in our with our what how to say this in the monetary policy. We need to be careful with money because money demand function is not stable. In fact, money supply is also, it cannot be fully measured by control, not measured. It's money supply is not fully under the control of central bank, because money supply is also affected by the behavior of public and also banking system. How much deposit they would like to hold, and people also between public between deposit and a currency to hold. So this will affect money supply. Okay, with that, I would like to end my publication and I would like to share. Okay, I think I have enough. I think no need to share. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zarinah, for your enlightening presentations.
Thank you.
Some points that I can notice from your presentation is there is not clear cut between the money supply and inflations, because the unstable positions of the money supply, money demands in the context of the aggregate demand, aggregate spending in the context of the economic environments. And also you mentioned also about the aggregate supply, money supply, that also is not the control of the central banks, whereby the money supply here somehow behave is not really linking with the real activities. Yeah, so that this the cause why somehow we cannot see uh, the situation whereby the money supply and money demand here reflects the economic conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, doctors, I can share mine, doctors, perhaps for 15 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Done
Okay.
with mine.
Okay, so can you
So how should I?
Stop the screen, doctors?
So I stop here. Stop.
Yes, from
Okay.
there.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so right now, actually, I'm only trying to continue what Dr. Zarinah mentioned just now about the monetary policy. And here we will focus, dear students, on the central bank's stance or the policy response. Just now you have heard from Dr. Zarinah about the political perspective about the monetary policy that has been conducting by some central banks. And right now, we remain a questions. What should central bank do in respect of the monetary policy goals, strategy, and the targets? Yeah. So next one here is that these chapters actually try to look at the role of central banks in using the monetary policy actions. Yeah. But why does the central banks use these tools? Yeah. Why the central bank uses some tools in order to stimulating the economic conditions? And monetary policy tools somehow that used by central banks Okay, so in the context of monetary policy, dear students, these tools are used in order to achieve the ultimate goals of the monetary policy. So, but the ultimate goals of the monetary policy here cannot be estimated directly. It must use the monetary targets somehow. Yeah, and the tools and goals here must be connected. Yeah, the tools here is the instruments, the instrument used by the central banks, and then the goals here is the what is the directions, yeah, of the central bank policy, what the central bank going to achieve. Yeah, so that this will be the part and parcel of the central bank's stance or central bank rules in the conduct of monetary policy. Um, Given the goals of the monetary policy, so these are some of the goals that the central banks are going to achieve. For sure, the first is the high employment. So in the context of monetary policy, there is no idle capacity um, of the economy. There is no idle capacity, or it does mean that the economy must reach um, the optimum level of employment. Yeah. So in that positions, the output gaps, yeah, GDP gaps must be reduced significantly. Yeah, there is no any gap between the GDP real and GDP potentials. Yeah, so that the high employment of full employment here is the goals of the monetary policy. And for sure, economic growth. Yeah, given by Dr. Zarinah just now that the money demand here is reflects how much the economy is going on. Yeah, so that the economic growth here is highly important for sure, by taking some consideration of the monetary policy. Yeah, and the third one is about price stability. So this one also the most important one in the mid of current situation, by the way. I think you have observed so far, dear students, that the inflation rate in some other countries, just mentioned by Dr. Zarinah, is very high right now. In Indonesia right now, Dr. Zarinah, by the way, the inflation rate has reached around 5.7% of this right now. So has already passed the inflation targeting framework taken by the Central Bank of Indonesia. So in Central Bank of Indonesia, they have put the interval of inflation 3.5% plus minus 1. So it does mean that the interval inflation that tolerated by Central Bank is between 2.5% until 4.5%. So it does mean that the current inflation has been quite dangerous in the context of economic sustainability. Yeah. So in this context, the central bank are really concerned with this. Otherwise, it will reduce the purchasing power of the parity. Uh, have you understood, dear students, what the meaning of price stability here? Yeah. In my context, in my understanding, the price stability here, Dimas, related with the situation whereby the purchasing power of the people is not any significantly changed over the time. So for example, you have 1,000 rupiah right now. And with 1,000 rupiah right now, you can purchase one candy, for example. So with the same amount of 1,000 right now, you use to purchase candy by tomorrow, and then you use this candy to purchase the money to choose to purchase candy yesterday. Whether these three different conditions are given the same amount of candies. If the numbers is same across the time, it does mean that the price stability has been maintained. Otherwise, if the candy has been reduced or the candy increased in terms of numbers, it does mean that the price stability is not accessed. Yeah. So do you understand the meaning, Dimas? Already student. Yeah. And the next one is interest rate stability. So in the case of interest rate stability, just continuation of the Dr. Zarinah just now. Interest rate in our context, based on the interest rate parity, we have two kind of interest rate. The first is the nominal interest rate, and the second one is the real interest rate. So we need to separate between the nominal and real interest rate. Yeah. So the real interest rate here actually relates with the how the interest rate here connected with the real sectors. Yeah, how much the return of the real sectors. Yeah, and the nominal interest rate here refers to the return of the financial assets. So the context of interest rate parity, we have interest rate, nominal interest rate equal to the real interest rate plus inflations. Yeah. So in this context, basically the interest rate stability refers to the condition whereby between the real and nominal interest rate here is in the position of balance. Yeah. So the one that wanted to invest in the real one and the nominal one, they have the same probability to invest. Yeah. Therefore, the stability here must be in place. And the next one is stability of financial market. You see that financial market is the place to meet buyer and supply. Yeah, buyers and buyers and sellers. Yeah. So the financial market here will be the place where the investors and also the depositors meet each other, and they will transact the goods and services. And in the end of the day, they will create any stability. Yeah. In the context of financial market, we have the money market, we have stock market, we have bond markets. So all those markets are connected with the financial markets. And the sixth one is the stability of foreign exchange markets. You see, Dr. Zarinah, when last week I went to Singapore, I went to Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur. I purchased roti canai at the moment, roti canai. Yeah. So when I was in Malaysia 10 years ago, the price of roti canai, one piece, only 0.6 cent or 60 cent at the moment. But right now, when I purchased again last week, the roti tanya has been increased to more than maybe around 1 ringgit, 1.2 ringgit. So in that case, the question remains whether the roti canai here becomes expensive or our money, our exchange rate becomes less valuable. Yeah. So this the two the two issues. And by the way, Dr. Zarina, also in the case of rupiah right now, if you see from the website, our currency is really highly depreciated against US dollars. So right now, $1 almost 15,000 plus. Yeah. So more almost closer to 20,000 per $1. I guess in ringgit also depreciated quite much. So it does mean that the stability of the exchange rate market here will linking to what extent the price of goods and services in the domestic and international environments. Yeah, and how then the question and the question is how the conduct of monetary policy in responding such any instability in the case of inflation, exchange rate, and others. Yeah, how the monetary policy works. Yeah, for this one, monetary policy here will work, sisters and brothers, through monetary tools. Yeah, monetary instruments. And unfortunately, these monetary instruments cannot affect the economic goals directly. Yeah, so it must be through another intermediate goals, yeah, intermediate or operational goals, yeah, before it reaches the ultimate goals. Yeah. So in this context, uh, the strategy for the central bank then, the central banks should select one or more economic goals. Yeah. But as for example, inflation right now, one of the price stability. Yeah. In the context of Indonesia right now, the target is price stability that connected with the inflation targeting framework or ITF. Yeah, because the ITF here become the most important one because it can control the inflation directly. So this the stand of the central banks. And the second one, once the central bank has already chosen the economic goals, the central bank choose the variable called intermediate targets. So what then the intermediate target that link with the economic goals? Yeah, for example, price stability. So for this one, the central bank somehow chose the M1 or M2. Yeah, the quasi money or M1 or the broad money M2, or perhaps interest rate that Dr. Zarina mentioned about to what extent this interest rate will be connected with the demand for money, either for precautionary or perhaps for the speculative, and which have the direct effect on the goals. So this intermediate target, for example, M1 and M2, will be connected to the ultimate goals. Yeah, and however, even these variables are not directly affected by the tools. Yeah, therefore, the next one is then the central bank chooses number of variable called operating targets. Yeah. So this operating target is the target that operated by the government in order to be intervened. Yeah. So for example, in this case, we have interbank rate, yeah, T-bill rate, for example. So this one are intervened by central bank as the operational aggregate. Yeah. So how this operational aggregate will be linked to the intermediate targets, and this intermediate target ultimately will be linked to the ultimate goals. Yeah. And this one, unfortunately, time is consistency take place. Yeah. What the meaning of time is consistency? Somehow the policymakers is not consistent in standing the monetary policy actions. Somehow the interest rate becomes higher, somehow become lower, or inflation become higher, somehow become lower. Yeah. So this inconsistency, yeah, if of is giving will be giving uh any inconsistency in terms of the credibility of the policymakers in giving the policy stance. Yeah, so that the market becomes panic somehow, become untrust, yeah, to the policymakers. Yeah, so this happens. And the example of type of inconsistency, for example, to reduce the expected inflations, yeah, the central bank somehow announces its tightened monetary policy through money supply target, yeah, But at the moment, yeah, when the government tries to tighten monetary policy, the government also is facing the high unemployment. How come the inflation increase? Yeah, and then at the moment also unemployment increase. Yeah, so it's such as a dilemma somehow. Yeah, so the central bank may be tempted to cut interest rate, but which may create volatility in the financial market, because once the inflation increases, yeah, but employment also increases, so no good and services will be produced at the moment. So it will make the market become unstable because the numbers of money perhaps more than the supply of good, for example. Yeah. And the second one, for example, to stimulate the economic growth, for example, the central bank announces its expansionary monetary policy through the money target. So the government tries to printing money a lot. Yeah. But faced with high inflation at the moment, yeah, the central bank may be tempted to rise interest rate. Look like right now. Yeah. So right now the government tries to reduce the inflations. Yeah. Uh, but trying increasing the interest rate. The question remains whether this rising interest rate effectively affect to the uh, reducing the inflation rate. Yeah, this is the questions. Yeah. Um, my humble understanding is when the government tries to increase the interest rate, yeah, so the government must ensure, yeah, that the real sectors also, yeah, is working. Yeah, so the government does not solely absorb, yeah, the money supply excess, but also in the same time the government must also encourage or improve the quality of the real sectors. So real sectors is going on in parallel with the uh, monetary sectors. Yeah. So this one, the way how we make these two things is not in the dilemma or is not in the trade-off mode. Yeah. And the next one is CB, yeah, central banks attempts to control either the money supply or interest rate to achieve the goals. Can the CB control both at the same time to achieve the goals? Yeah, look like the Dr. Zarinah just now mentioned exactly. Yeah, somehow the government cannot control the money supply, even cannot control the money demands, because the behavior of the people is uncertain. Somehow we are irrationally behave somehow. Yeah, you conduct uncommons, yeah, panic behavior, yeah, somehow. You just follow the trend, but it's not rationally thinking about the impact of your activities, for example. So in this case, we look at the graphical illustration simple here. Yeah, this one is the interest rate, for example. Yeah, the vertical line, and also we have the horizontal line here, this quantity of money. So the graphical here is constant. Is vertical. It does mean that money supply here is solely under the central bank control. Yeah, only the central bank can control this movement. Yeah, it somehow it's also exogenous factors. It's not endogenous. Yeah, cannot be controlled by anybody unless central banks, for example. So for this one, we have the money demand here, just mentioned by Dr. Zarina, and the money demand here we can just make imagination here, upswing or downswing, yeah, increase or decrease. So in other words, the interest rate here actually is mainly influenced by the money demands, exactly mentioned by Dr. Zarina just now. Yeah, so but the demand here is the important one in order to determine to what extent the interest rate will be created. So for example, right now, you know already that the interest rate is high right now in the case of Indonesia. So the bank has increased 3 times over the last 2 months, the interest rate from 3.5% right now become 5.25%, the interest rate. So in this case, the increase of interest rate because of the government perhaps perceive there is the assistance of the money demands. Yeah. So the money demand in the case of Indonesia still strong, even though the inflation exists. Yeah. But the money demand still strong. Therefore, in this case, the interest rate increase. Yeah. So the increase of interest rate in the case of Indonesia, under this simple illustration, because of money demand still in the strong positions. Yeah. And the next one, interest rate targets. Yeah. So what is the target of the interest rate? Yeah. In I may say, what is the optimal position of the interest rate that can cover both demand and supply? Yeah, can accommodate the growth of the real sectors. In the same time, also it can balance the position in the financial sectors. So what is the balance of this? Yeah, in the context of Indonesia, somehow we have the interest rate targets. Yeah, targets. Yeah. So the target here actually is the combination between the MS and also the MD. Yeah, for example, here we have the targeted interest rate. For example, first from here, yeah, the E star, yeah, the E star here, and the M1 here. But you want to target perhaps the interest rate become here, yeah. So we just move to the right, yeah, and also we want to be in I star, for example. So you just move the money demand and also the money supply. So in other words, if the government believe that the interest rate in the position of this one, I star, must be 5%, for example, so the government will make adjustment in terms of how much the money demand and how much the money supply that must be in place in the market. Yeah, so that will be the targeted interest rate. And last one, this one is the criteria to change the targets. You see that we have so many targets: price stability, yeah, monetary stability, monetary sectors, yeah. So in this one, the first is measurability, yeah. For sure, the target must be measured correctly. It means that the government must be able to transparently announce to the public that this policy is transparent, can be measured, yeah. And the second one is controllability. So the government must be able to control whatever policy that they have given to the market, so that the market can trust the governments, yeah, with the policy action given, yeah. And the third one, predictability, yeah, it does mean that if the government release the interest rate, yeah, so whether this policy is going to be predicted, yeah, in the future that economy will be better, yeah. So it will be also given the giving the transparent and credibility to the public. And this one is just some examples of the monetary target of the targeting in the context of CB. The first is monetary targeting. So the government targets the monetary, the money in the economy. The M1, the M2, yeah, M0, the government targets this money supply. Yeah, how much the optimal numbers of money supply they are tolerated in the economy, for example. So this one is under the monetary targeting frameworks. And the second one is inflation target that mentioned before. So the government has already given you the targeted inflations, 3.5 plus minus 1%. So this targeted inflation actually is the best numbers of inflation that economic can be growing well, or in other words, it has been suitable with the fundamental of economy. So in the context of Indonesia, 3.5% plus minus 1 is able to be the best numbers of inflation that can make Indonesian fundamental economy is going better, yeah, or in balance. And this one just the advantage or disadvantage, yeah. I just go through, yeah. And here just the another examples of the monetary and inflation target in some countries, yeah. Just I give you the illustration here, the last one. So here is the illustration of the target range. If you talk about targeting, so it means it must be upper and lower threshold or limit or targets. So in this context, we have here in the context of New Zealand, we have the fluctuation in the context of inflation, but New Zealand have a target, upper target and lower target. So as long as the fluctuation of inflation go within these targets, yeah, so for sure the inflation is still tolerable, and vice versa. And also here in the context of Canada also, yeah, they have also the target, yeah, also the midpoints, yeah. So this one just the way how to control the inflation rate in the country. I think that's all from myself, Dr. Zarinah, just to add your complete explanation, by the way, yeah. And now, perhaps we put some chance to you, a chance to you to Q&A sessions, or perhaps you have any comment and feedbacks concerning with the presentation that we have made together. With that, I give back to you, perhaps, Dr. Zarinah, if you have any response, comment, question before we pass to the student, please. Doctor, please unmute first. Please unmute first, doctors.
Sorry, sorry. I was talking alone. Okay. Maybe I can add some point to your your notes, yeah, regarding the price stability here. We come up with figure. What is price stability? Yeah, and in you can find it in macroeconomic textbook. Yeah, price stability is between 3 or 2 below, is 2 and below, or 3 and below. So if we can achieve price inflation at 3%, this is good enough. If we have 2, this is good, but not 1%. We cannot achieve inflation 1% because there is no motivation for business people to do business. They want to make profit. Of course, they need this increase in price. Inflation is increase in price, so they need some positive increase in price. But 3 and below is okay, 2 and below is okay. And Malaysia achieve, before COVID-19, we have inflation which is 3 and below. Almost we also have at 2% only. And then if we have like yours, you mentioned just now 5.7, correct, your inflation, and Malaysia now is also 4.5. Okay, we need we have to be worry on this, because but this is not very high if we compare to other countries. We are still moderate, but then this is also based on certain policies that government enforce, so that we can control the inflation. Otherwise, without this policy like subsidy in Malaysia, the price will be much higher. So 5.7, 4.5 is a moderate inflation. 50% and above is hyperinflation. Turkey now, 87% Turkey now. But on the Facebook, I saw that many people are sharing their trips in Turkey. They have vacation in Turkey. But Turkey is having hyperinflation now. Hyperinflation. So with hyperinflation in Turkey, which is prices are very high, and also for Malaysia and also Indonesia, with currency depreciating, it needs a lot of money, USD. And this is very expensive. Vacation, traveling, very expensive. But I don't understand. Maybe because MCO, people are locked down. They cannot move out. And also, maybe I can add also to your, when you mentioned about the goal of central bank as a in their conduct or monetary policy, I believe that the first goal is price stability. Yeah. Because you also mentioned that to achieve high unemployment, economic growth. Yes, at the same time, but their priority should be price stability. Yeah? But I no doubt, yeah, many central bank, they also at the same time try to achieve this high unemployment and economic growth. Because of that, there is a conflict there. Okay, maybe I stop here, let the student ask questions.
Okay, doctors. Thank you very much for your response. Very valuable and very insightful response. Okay, dear students, if you have any question in mind, or perhaps you have any comments, you have two choices, not only just for my student here sitting in the class, but also the student from University of Malaya. Yeah, if you have,
I only
yeah.
have 11 students only for my
No,
course.
no worries, no worries, doctors. Yeah.
Okay.
And also we have also some
But they are
lectures.
very active actually. They ask a lot of questions during my lecture.
Okay, and for your information, doctors, we also have some lecturers from other university who are
Okay.
joining right now our discussions, and perhaps
Hi.
also some students from other university outside
Wow.
UMY and UM also joining us.
Wow, very
So
good.
so feel free, dear students, right now. The time is yours. You have any question in mind, please?
Or
And also from UM.
maybe you can maybe they can write something on the chat. If
Yes.
if they feel more comfortable, they can write
Yes.
their question on chat so I can see.
Yes.
I can reply.
Yes. Yes, please. Any questions, please, brothers and sisters? You can write in the chat if you feel inconvenient to raise a question directly to us. Ada? Silakan.
Let me see my student. Okay, let me see. Aida Shahira, anything to ask? Aida Shahira, nak tanya apa-apa?
Any questions? Seems the students clear, doctors, perhaps, or the time is very has been 8 p.m. and now you have been 9 p.m. So very tired, perhaps already.
I received like from my student Yap Sami. No, nothing to ask. Quite clear. Nothing to ask. Okay. Maybe I can just add something. Okay. When we say in classical theory, money supply is exogenous, meaning money supply is under the full control of central bank. That's fine. Okay. When we go Keynesian also, money supply is under full control of central bank, exogenous. So when Keynes introduced this money supply, it is a vertical curve, a straight curve, which you mentioned just now, meaning that curve is not affected by interest rate at all. It is government, the central bank decision, exogenous. But when I mention in more advanced explanation of Keynesian economists, you can find this in the textbook. In the more advanced explanations of extensions of money supply, money supply is not fully under the control of central bank. Yeah? So when we introduce the curve, money supply curve, it will be a positively slope. Yeah? So meaning we have negative slope for money demand and positive slope for money supply, where the intersections of this will be will dictate interest rate, and also changes in interest rate is also affecting money supply from through the behavior of public, which is household and also banking system. Yeah? Because banking system, their behavior is measured by reserve deposit ratio, whereas household is measured by their currency deposit ratio. And government, the central bank behavior is measured by monetary base, high-powered money. And high-powered money, central bank has full control. It's fine. But then when we look at the money supply, there are many definitions of money supply, but to look at this in money supply and money is also affected by monetary base, and this the equation is introduced by money equal to money multiplier times monetary base, and this money multiplier is which is not constant, which is affected by the behavior of the people and the banking system. That's why money supply is not exogenous. You can get this in the textbook, I think.
Okay, doctors. Actually, we have two questions, doctors, here. We have two questions from our student here. The first is hand raising from Brother Ridwan, and one personal chat to me. Okay, perhaps from Brother Ridwan first, please, Brother Ridwan, if you want to ask question directly to us.
Oke, Bismillah. Terima kasih Pak Dimas sama Bu Zaini atas waktunya. Izin bertanya pakai bahasa.
Saya dengar bahasa Indonesia.
Permission to ask.
Boleh. Okay, go ahead.
Saying the inflation that is happening in Turkey, what can be evaluation from inflation in Turkey? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Can I share my screen, Dr. Dimas?
Yes, please, doctors. Yes, please, you can.
That means I share my screen. Share screen. Share screen. Wait, let me get my how to share.
You can go to the green, share screen, the green light, doctors. Yes, okay.
All right, wait, one moment. I try to find okay, monetary, okay. Can you see this clearly? I can enlarge it.
Yes.
Can you see? This is quite recent data from economists. All right, let me. So you can see here, this is 2002. 2002 United States inflation. Let's go to inflation. Where is our consumer prices? This is changes in consumer prices. This is inflation. You can see here, United States very high, 8.2. China very low, 2.1. Japan also quite low, 3. Britain high, 10.1. Canada 6.9. Okay, let's go to this Turkey. Yeah, this Turkey. Sorry, 8.5, not 8.7. I think this is October. Yeah, this is latest October. 8.5. Yeah, Turkey 8.5, and then we also have Argentina 8.3. This is the current. During this 2020, their inflation rate is very high. In fact, Czech Republic 18, Indonesia 5.7. Yeah, like what you mentioned, 5.7. Malaysia 4.5. Like what we mentioned just now, 4.5. Yeah, this is the inflation rate. And then you can see others inflation also. And this is also good. We can see the GDP. GDP for Indonesia 5.7, Malaysia 8.9. 8.9 is quarter 2, but we already have quarter 3. We are at 14.2. Quite high, 14.2 our GDP. So more or less we can achieve 5 this for 2020. Okay, unemployment rate. We also have budget deficit, interest rate. Let me see. How to minimize it? I cannot see. Let me minimize this screen first. Okay, for the interest rate, for the budget balance, for the budget deficit for Malaysia. Malaysia, we have quite high, 6.1. For Indonesia, Indonesia is low, 3.9. 3.9. Indonesia, Malaysia is high. We spend a lot. 7.6. Malaysia, Malaysia is 6.1. Indonesia 3.9. But we get China 7.1. This is because they are trying to fight COVID, so they have to spend a lot. But then if you look at Britain, also quite high, 6.9. 6.9, Britain. Japan also 6.1, very high. So this budget deficit is also, it has, it must be, I don't have time to explain just now. Actually, I'm also relate with inflation, because we can see that it will push up with high budget deficit. It can also, it depends how we finance this budget deficit. If it's totally come from the government, because we cannot impose on tax, because people, it will burden the people. So by issuing more bonds, and if government is buying, it's whatever they issue, this will increase monetary base, and this will increase money supply, and this will create more inflation in the economy. All right. So with more inflation, people will demand more money. Why? Because we know that inflation, there is cost of living is very high. Inflation also makes money decrease in purchasing value. So we need more money now to buy things, to buy similar things. So because of that, we need more money during inflation. I think am I answering to you?
Ridwan.
Dr. Ridwan?
Brother Ridwan?
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can share the data with Dr. Dimas, if Dr. Dimas is interested to get that data.
So doctors, doctors, there's one question also from our students, Brother Bayu. He questioned about, he want to get more clarification on speculative motive and precautionary motive, doctors. Seems to be not clear from his perspective.
Okay.
Please, doctor.
All right. Okay. Let me get the slide better so that can follow better. Okay. Speculative motive. Okay. In Keynesian explanation, money holding, people hold money in hands because of 3 motives. First, for transaction, when they buy things, of course, they want goods and services, and in exchange, they have to use money. So they use money in exchange for goods and services. So this, okay, all right, that is for transaction. For precautionary, people also hold money not for immediate spending, But for later spending, for future spending is for what? For spending which is unexpected spending. Maybe we do not know. Maybe our relative, ourselves also we may want much money in the future for example for medical expenses or to buy things. Suddenly you decide to buy expensive thing. What to buy? What because you're a student. Let's say you work. Maybe you want to purchase house. Then you find a good house you want to purchase, which you may not intend to buy that house, but then suddenly you change your mind. So this is things that which is unexpected. So these money holdings for precautionary, for uncertainty things, uncertain, because you don't plan this, you don't plan the spending. So you this is something that buffer that you have. If the spending comes, and then you can have the money to spend or on it. So this this precautionary demand for money is affected by income. If we have high income, so we may tends to hold more money for this precautionary motive. Is that clear? Okay, and then another thing for the speculative is where money is also as a functions of store of value. So money can be used to purchase bond. Purchase bond. When we purchase bond, meaning bond has value. When we purchase bond, we get interest return. We get interest income or interest return. And at the same time, when we sell bond, we sell at high price, so we get capital gain. We make profit there. So here, money demand for speculative depends on interest rate. If interest rate is high, people will buy more bonds, so people hold money less in the hand. So speculative money that people hold is less in the hand when interest rate is high. When interest rate is low, people hold more money because it's not worth buying bond because low interest rate. They don't earn anything. It's better to keep money in hands. This is Keynes' explanation, but later the Keynesian, they extended this model based on real experience, where real experience, Keynesian economists found that James Tobin is one of the Keynesian economists. He found that this money demand for precautionary and transaction also is not only solely or only affected by income, but it is also affected by interest rate. Because this precautionary demand for money, people don't use it now, they just hold. So why just hold? Better put in the bank, you get interest rate income. Then when the payment comes, you just withdraw and use for the payment, which is when the payment, when the times comes. So this is how James Tobin explained that precautionary is also affected, but not only by income, but also interest rate. For that reason, in more modern money demand theory, there are three separate equations for all the three motifs. Whereas in Keynes' theory, there is only one equation, which is MD equal to CO plus C1 times Y minus C2 times interest rate. This is money demand question. For Keynes, for modern money demand, three equation. Transaction, we have James Tobin's. There is equation there. complicated, but you can refer to textbook. And also for precautionary, also there is equation, and also for speculation, also there is equation and graph, each separate analysis, not together.
Okay, doctors, very clear, I guess. Any question, other question from the students? From here, another questions? So the student in the class seems to be well understood, doctors.
Dr. Dimas, before we end this class, we take photo.
Oh, sure, sure, doctor, sure, doctor. So, in fact, that we have already taken the pictures since the beginning, doctors.
Tapi let the others on their video so that we can see them. Some they don't have photos.
Yes, so doctor. Okay, before we end the discussions, I think you and me, Dr. Zarinah, maybe we can give maybe closing remarks, about our discussion today about the money demand, inflation, also the motive, the certain bank rules, so that the student here can get the main points. Actually, what is the emphasized points for our discussions from you first, doctors, before we end the discussion, please.
Okay. We talk a lot about this quantity theory of money. Okay, and then inflation. Quantity theory of money, which money, and then inflation. This is the important things. And then we also touch on velocity, interest rate. So you need to differentiate between classical and Keynes. Yeah. So don't get confused. So this MV, the quantity theory of money is MV equal to PY is strictly classical. They assume full employment, and they also assume stable money demand, no rule for interest rate. Whereas Keynes is broader, velocity change, not constant. Output also, no full employment. Money demand is unstable. Money supply is exogenous. Yeah. I just add up money supply endogenous just to give you a broad picture. But in this for this lecture today, the contents is strictly referring to money supply is exogenous. Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you, doctors. From our side, from my side, just now we have shared the idea of the setup bank rules. Yeah, if Dr. Zarinah just now focusing on the monetary theory in the context of monetary policy, mine is relating with the central bank's goals and targets. So institutional monetary policy actions in the context of central banks. And from the context of my presentations, the central banks, CB, will take some tools in order to reach the ultimate goals of the monetary policy. In the context of the Zarinah just now mentioning about the price stability, the inflation is the main target that taken very serious effort by the central banks. In order to reach this inflation target, the government or central banks must use some operational targets. For example, M1, M2, base money, and this operational target actually referring to what the mindset of the central bankers actually, whether they are under the monetaries or under Keynesians, but in the case of Indonesia, perhaps the monetary's perspective or monetary's understanding is stronger, because they views that the money demand is stable, and then the velocity is constant, and the money is endogenous, So in that case, the central banks is often thinking that the monetary policy always be able to make the inflation is under control, So because they do agree that the money itself is stable, and also inherently stable, In fact, the Keynesians argues the way around. Yeah. So therefore, my conclusion is, in the context of inflation, in the context of interest rate and central bank rules, we have to look at what is the optimal level of interest rate, what is the optimal level of inflation that the central banks must be taking care of. Yeah. So by taking this optimal one, we can have the intervention band of, or the policy intervention bands. So when the central bank must intervene, and when the government or the central bank do not need to intervene. Yeah. And for sure, if we talk about interest rate as well, we have to differentiate between the nominal interest rate and the real interest rate, whereby according to interest rate parity, so the interest rate, nominal and real interest rate, is affected by the inflation rate. So in the end of the day, we have to make imbalance between the nominal and real interest rate so that the purchasing power of the people can be maintained and even can be increased time by time. Okay, with that, doctors, I guess we end the discussion today on the behalf of Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, UMY. We would like to express our gratitude and appreciations to Dr. Zarinah for your valuable time, as well as the students who have been joining us until the end. And we do wish that our discussion will be continuing next week, doctors. And in terms of the detailed topics, for sure, we will discuss later.
Dr. Dimas,
And,
you,
yeah.
you told me you have international student. I don't see them.
Actually, the international student here, we have one from Somalia, Brother Abdi Hakim, no mistaken. So he has joined, but I don't know whether he has left. Yeah, but here in the class, by the way, they are the regular program class. Yeah, so all of them are Indonesians. Yeah, but yeah, they're still committed to join our international discussions.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so next week we will have the same program, dear students. Yeah, so don't miss it next week, and the topic will be also given to you by next week. And before we end the discussion, would you please to take a picture together? Yeah, for those who are in Zoom meeting, if you don't mind, you can just have you can turn on the camera, so we can take the picture together. Okay, can we have a picture together, please? Okay, brother, sister Yap, thank you for turning on the video. Okay, just count. Boleh diambil gambarnya, Mas Dimas? Dari sana diambil, nggak apa-apa, ya. Okay, I take the picture and count. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, finish. Okay, thank you so much for the attendance. Dr. Zarinah, terima kasih sudah meluangkan masa. Jumpa lagi insya Allah minggu hadapan.
Interesting meeting you and the student.
Yeah, sure.
Pernah buat macam ni?
Yes, we have done this one many times during the pandemic.
I mean with international with other university tak ada, but with own student ada.
Yeah, doctor.
Own student.
Okay, doctor. Okay, that's all, doctors. Thank you very much for all the times, and thank you very much for all the attendance for the students.
Terima kasih semua.
Terima kasih. Stay safe and health. I close. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Amin.
Yeah.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah.